Item: SCP-356. Object Class: Neutralized. Special Containment Procedures: the remains of SCP-356 are to be kept continuously frozen in Long-Term Biological Storage Unit 73A at Site-23. Staff are advised that SCP-356 has been a person of interest to the governments of the United States, the Russian Federation, and the Republic of Azerbaijan since 1986. As such, liaisons to the Foundation serving with these nations or affiliated entities are to be kept unaware of SCP-356's containment in 1986 and death in 1987. Update: except for approved research purposes, no electronic devices capable of receiving telephone calls are to be brought within 10 meters of SCP-356. Description: SCP-356 is a deceased 62-year-old male human of Eurasian descent, measuring 1.76 meters tall and weighing 81.5 kilograms. When SCP-356 is within approximately 3 meters of any device capable of receiving a telephone call, such as traditional land-based telephones, cellular phones, or computer terminals with software enabling telephony, that device will begin receiving a constant stream of calls. Left unanswered, these calls will continue for an indefinite period, only ceasing when answered, and resuming once the speaker hangs up. In all observed cases, attempts to track the source of telephone calls related to the presence of SCP-356 have all identified the device receiving the calls itself as the origination point. When telephone calls prompted by the presence of SCP-356 are answered, an unknown entity, SCP-356-A, speaking in a voice exactly matching that of SCP-356 will answer. Left to speak on its own, SCP-356-A will talk about general information regarding SCP-356, mostly focused on work history and professional relationships. SCP-356-A will also describe what it considers to be the mental state of SCP-356, and will sometimes state what it claims SCP-356 is thinking about. 1. SCP-356-A has demonstrated a tendency to gravitate to subjects that SCP-356 finds uncomfortable or distressing. SCP-356 was recovered along with 12 other persons, 12,348 pages of files, 3 computers and 115 hours of video recordings after the 4th of January 1986 Foundation raid on a CIA safehouse as part of Operation Catwalk, including SCP-356. Objects recovered from this operation later received SCP classification.